Okay, so chapter 4 practice. So again, today we are going to look at chapter 4 and some examples together. And some of it, the last one gets a little long, so we'll get through what we can on it. There's a few things I'll definitely point out. I know you've looked over and done the little adaptive study plan on chapter 4, so you know, basically in chapter 4 we're really doing a lot of calculating. It's where the real math comes in. So we're looking at calculating federal income tax withholding, and then looking at their whole entire like net pay, so gross minus all of the deductions. So there is a lot of information in chapter 4. And so we are going to look at, as you know, going through the chapter, there's two main ways to calculate the federal income tax, which I printed off my tables just so I'd have them. You have the percentage method table that comes with your allowance values that you have to calculate first. And then you also have the wage bracket method where you have these nice tables. So we are going to practice both of those, so because they do get a little tricky. I think wage bracket method is obviously a little easier. It's tiny print, but it's easier, you know, because you're truly just looking at how they get paid, whether they're single or married, finding their salary, how many exemptions they have, and then you find their corresponding withholding rate. Then we go into the percentage method, which actually requires more math because we actually take their gross pay minus however many allowances they have based on this table. And then we look up their wages. And from there, we have to look at calculating what, you know, based on the tables, whether they're over certain limits, calculating the excess, taking a percentage and adding it. Yeah, it's a big, long method. So we are going to practice both of those. The wage bracket method is great, but as you may have already seen from looking at it, it only goes to a certain amount of income. So that's the problem and why we don't always use the wage bracket method. So there's limits to how far the income goes on this. And so once we've exceeded the limit on the wage bracket, we have to do the percentage method. And as you'll see as we go in and compare these, we're actually going to look at one problem where we do both ways and see, you know, the difference. There's not much of a difference. I mean, it's like, you know, just a few cents. The percent method is a little, I believe it's the one, it's a little bit more accurate, I guess you could say, you know, it goes to 2 decimal places. Whereas if you notice on your wage bracket, it's all the whole numbers. So they're very, very close on how much we're taxing or how much we're withholding. But we're just going to look at the 2 methods and why we would use, again, percentage over the other one. Also, before we get started, I just wanted to make a couple of announcements, kind of get us going. If you look on Canvas at due dates, you may have noticed I changed a couple of due dates. You may not. But, you know, tonight you had, of course, the Chapter 4 Adaptive Learning Quiz due, and then Chapter 3 homework is due by tonight if you haven't finished it. Next week, we actually have nothing due because we'll be just having a work day on October 10th. So next Wednesday will just be a work day. And then the next Wednesday, I actually originally had, I believe, I think I changed that Chapter 5. That Chapter 5 has been moved. The Chapter 5 Unemployment Compensation Tax will actually be due Wednesday, October 24th. That is reflected in Cengage. I need to change it on Canvas. It doesn't change it automatically. So I will change that. Let me go here because I'm pretty sure. So yeah, you'll have your Chapter 4 homework and exam over Chapters 3 and 4 will be due the 17th. But Chapter 5, we're actually going to move to October 24th. So you'll actually have a little bit extra time in there. Partly, I will not be here on October 17th. So we will not have class. I will remind you, I will post it on Canvas. But that's why I moved that. Instead of moving Chapter 5 up, I just moved it back 1 week. We have So nothing is due next week, but you can obviously work on your Chapter 4 homework and then obviously your test as well. And the Chapter 4 homework and Exam 2 will be due on October 17th as scheduled. And I will not be here that night, so we will not have class. It is the week of fall break, so I'm going to just be gone. So. See, there we go. Yeah, it was just a good timing, right? It kind of worked out for us. Like our kids were all going on vacation with their respective other parents, and I'm like, it's my husband's 40th birthday and our 1-year anniversary, and I'm like, well, if they're all gone, like, we should go too. So I'm like, it's fall break. I get like 1 day off. So just made it a few days off, and so we're gonna go to Mexico for the week. To Mexico, to Cancun area. Yeah. Yeah, me too. We went a year and a half ago and loved it, and so I'm like, oh yeah, it's we were looking at going somewhere closer, but it would be just as expensive. So
yeah, the United States beaches are just as expensive to travel outside of the country. I mean, it's crazy. The US is.
And it's really not that far to fly or anything. And so we're looking now, we got a good deal. Since it's still kind of technically hurricane season, it's still their rainy season, so it's cheaper right now. And I'm like, it's all inclusive. And because I was like punching numbers, I'm like, oh, we could go to Vegas even or something fun. And I'm like, man, I think we'd spend more in Vegas by the time you add up food and drinks and going here or going there. So yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, I'm like, plus I just want to relax anyway. So we're just going to go sit on the beach and forget about Oklahoma and the weather. The weather, not the people. Maybe some people. Not you all. Just kidding. So anyway, we will not have class on the 17th, and then we'll be back there on the 24th, and we'll just pick up with Chapter 5 then. So that's what I needed you guys to know. All right, let's get into the fun stuff on Chapter 4. And again, there's a lot to Chapter 4. We're just going to hit some of the highlights of what I want you to understand how to calculate. Obviously, there's a lot of other principles and underlying factors. Chapter 4 talks a lot, about different, pre-tax withholdings and things like that. So some of that you'll need to review on your own, of course. But really, I wanted you all to understand the calculations because some of these do get a little tricky, and students tend to struggle a little bit with the percent method. So I thought, well, let's cover that. So this first one, though, is doing wage bracket method, but it's dealing with an employee that is paid tips. So that one's also kind of a special circumstance. So Sean is a waiter at the Deluxe Lounge. In his first weekly pay in March, he earns $300 for the 40 hours he worked. In addition, he reports his tips to his employer of $500, and the employer withholds the appropriate taxes for the tips from this first pay in March. Okay? So it wants us to calculate his net take-home pay, assuming the employer withholds federal income tax. And we're going to do the wage bracket method. He's married with 2 allowances, and we want to withhold Social Security and Medicare, and then there's a state income tax of 2%. Okay. Well, for him, his gross pay is the amount of money his employer is paying him. It's the $300. Okay. However, when we go to calculate taxes, we need to look at his total taxable income, which talks a lot about in Chapter 4, taxable income. Well, his taxable income is going to be the $300 for his hourly pay, plus the $500 he reported in tips. So Sean's taxable income is $800. So then I'm going to go to my nice wage bracket, and they do give them to you here, so you can, access it by clicking here. I printed them out, and if you want to print them out in here, or if you want me to print them to save you your print limit, let me know, and I will before we leave. So we have a weekly earner, and he is married with 2 allowances. So I find married with 2 allowances, weekly earner. He's actually at the top of this second page here. 800, he earns at least 800, but less than 810. So that would be that first line. in that second column there. And he has 2 withholding allowances. So there, under 2, in that first line, I get $55. Okay, I know that's tiny, so I'm going to pop it up here. So I go to married, weekly payroll. He makes at least $800, but less than $810, and he has 2 allowances. So his withholding for federal income tax is $55. Okay. Make sure it tells us, it says enter deductions with the minus sign. Make sure you do that or it'll count it wrong. I kept wondering what I was doing wrong when I was doing the practice. I'm like, oh, gotta read the instructions. I feel like I tell on myself at least, right? It's like, yeah, it helps when you read. Because I'm like, I know that's right, I know that's right. Yeah, it was right. It just, so make sure you put your minuses in. And then we're going to calculate the rest of his taxes like we did last chapter. So we're taking for OASDI, we're taking $800 of taxable income times 6.2%. So what is his withholding for Social Security? $49.60, yeah. Yeah, the Social Security should be 6.2% of 800. So it's $49.60. And then what about the Medicare? $11.60, good. And then state income tax, they told us, was 2%. Again, we're looking at off of his taxable income of $800. $16, very good. And as you can see, you don't have to type in decimals. It won't make you type in both decimals. Whoops, I didn't put my minus in. There we go. So his gross pay minus all of his withholdings, what is his net pay for this week? Very good, $167.80. Okay. So just take gross minus all the deductions or withholdings. Those are withholdings. All the withholdings. We get a net pay of $167.80. Okay. So that one we kind of get help or practice using the wage bracket method, and then we're dealing with the tipped employee. So again, he's not getting $800 in gross pay. $800 is his taxable income because of those reported tips. Any questions on that one? All right. So that one's not too bad. This next one, again, it'll give you access to the table of allowances and the percentage method tables. We have 5 employees that all have, as you can see, different withholdings, different marital statuses, and different pay periods. So they want us to actually calculate percentage and wage bracket method for each of these employees, okay? So, well, let's look at Acorn. They're funny. So there we have, this person is single with 2 allowances and makes a weekly pay of $675. Well, again, when I'm doing percentage method, I have to first look at this table of allowance value, okay? And that's per allowance. This table is per allowance. So in this case, I have this employee that has 2 allowances and they're paid weekly, okay? So I'm going to, whoops. Sorry, I'm clicking the wrong thing. It's in my way. There we go. The table of allowance values, I'm going to look at this, and since this person is paid weekly, they get $77.90 per allowance. So this person has 2 allowances. So I'm going to start with, they have $675 of gross pay, and then we have 77.9, and they have 2 allowances. So I'm going to multiply that by 2. Okay. Which is what? 77.9 times 2 is how much? 155.80. Thank you. Okay, so I calculate how much of an allowance they're given for their allowances. And then I'm going to subtract that from the 675. So 675 minus 155.80. And how much do I get? You don't have that yet. 675 minus 155.80.
19.20.
Yes, very good. So $519 and 20 cents. Really need to go get a new marker. Okay. So that 519.20 is what we're going to look up in the percentage tables. Okay. So 519.20 is the amount that we're going to look up in our percentage method tables, which they also gave me. So the percentage method table does work a little differently. Here again, we're dealing with a single employee that is paid weekly. And so I'm going to look in this top table, table 1 for weekly payroll, and I'm going to look on the left because they are a single person. And then I need to find where their amount kind of falls. So we have 519.20, and I look at this, and this person falls in that second line. They make over $222, but not over $767. So I know that I'm going to withhold amount of tax of $17.90 plus 15% of anything they earn over $222. Okay, so I'm going to do the $17.19 plus 15% of whatever they make over $222. So I'm going to take 519.20 minus $222. So I'm going to take 519.20 minus $222. And what that gives me, $297.20. Is that what you guys got? So $297.20. I'm going to multiply that by 15%. So I took 519.20 minus the 222. I got 297.20. I'm then going to multiply that by 15%. That'll give me $44.58. And I'm going to add $17.90 to that to get a withholding tax of $62.48. Okay, so it's a long method, right? There's a lot of steps. So always make sure you calculate their total allowances first and subtract that from their gross pay. That's what we did first. This person was single with 2 allowances, so we multiplied the weekly allowance by 2, subtracted that from their gross pay, and then this is the amount we looked up in the table. And then how it works is on the line that they corresponded with, they're going to pay $17.90 plus 15% of anything over $222. So we took the 519.20 minus 222 to figure out how much tax they were subject to. And then we took 15% of that, added them together to get $62.48. Are there any questions on that method? It's easy. I will say, doing it myself, it's very easy to get off somewhere if you look at the wrong line. So that's why I print off the tables, and then I even use another page, you know, to make sure I'm on the right line of that table, because there is room for error here. So just be careful, double check your work. Obviously, check my work. I guess it checks it for you. So, but it is easy to get a calculation off. Okay. To do the wage bracket method on this employee, again, I just have to go to my wage bracket method tables. So it's pretty easy. I'm looking at, you know, a single person getting paid weekly. See, I can pull back up that table. So these are my wage bracket method. The single person weekly, and we were looking at $675. So they are in the table to the on the right hand side. Our person makes $675, so we're between the $670 and $680. This person has 2 allowances, so I get $62 withholding. Okay. So again, you just have to look it up on the wage bracket, so it's a little bit easier. As you can see, they're very close, the withholding amounts. One's just a lot easier to do. So the wage bracket method is a lot easier to calculate. Okay. Now, as you can see, when we get to the next employee, it says the wage bracket method is NA, and you can look at that. If you look at the single table and the weekly, it says, you know, for a single person that makes over $1,250 in a week, you have to use the table 1A for single person. Well, that's our percentage method. Okay, so we're unable to use the wage bracket method because this person makes too much. Okay, so we would really truly just repeat what we did on this first one. This person just makes more. So for PFOG, we start with a gross wage of $1,960. And again, we want to start with subtracting out any allowances that this person gets. And this person is a weekly earner with 1 allowance. So that would just be $77.90 taken out of their pay. Okay, or, you know, to calculate here. So $1,960 minus $77.90. We get $1,882 and 10 cents. So that's what I have to look up in my table. So this person is single and weekly, so I'm still in this table 1A, okay? And their pay is $1,882.10. So I'm going to look, what is that, the 4th line here? They make over $1,796 but under $3,700, okay? So I know they are going to get taxed $356.90, plus we're going to take 28% of whatever is in excess of $1,796. Well, there's not much. They just barely fit in this table. So I'm going to take $1,882.10 minus $1,796. Let's see, I have these numbers here. So that's $86.10. $86.10 that they're going to get taxed at a rate of 28%. So So 28% of that is $24.11. And I'm going to add that to the $356.90. So this person's total withholding should be $381.01. So $381.01. Any questions on using the percentage method? Well, to save time, I'm going to type in the answers, so feel free to copy them over or write them down somewhere, and then we'll move on because I definitely want to get to our last one. So for S. Phelps, the percentage method resulted in a $51.12 tax, whereas wage bracket was $51. For Carson, percentage method was $178.67, and wage bracket was $180. And for Helm, we had $167.18 and a wage bracket of $167. Okay. So I would like to go through and do all this, but as you can see, they're kind of time consuming, right? It takes a lot of time. So this chapter is kind of a lot of calculating, I know. And when we get to this last one, I'll kind of give you some tips on how to handle it. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one because the next couple are dealing with bonuses. So I wanted to give you do a couple of those. So in this case, we're going to look at issuing a bonus check, which is still taxed, as we know. So in this case, Damerly Company wants to give a holiday bonus check of $250 to each employee, and it wants the check amount to be $250. So it wants each employee to actually net $250. Okay. So what we have to do in that case is we take the $250 and we do this method called gross up. Sounds kind of gross, but I love the terminology. To get to a gross amount to then do withholdings on. Okay, so we are going to gross up the amount of the bonus and then calculate withholdings to get to a check amount at $250. Okay, and they give us, John Rowland has cumulative earnings for the year of $46,910. So this person is nowhere near any limits for OASDI or health insurance deductions. So we are going to take Social Security tax, federal income tax, which on these bonuses we always use what's called a supplemental rate of 25%. In this case, that's what they gave us, and a 5% Utah income tax. Okay, well, to gross up someone's pay, we're truly going to take where's my eraser? The net pay that we want to get to, so the check amount we want to write. So we're going to take $250 and we are going to divide it by 1 minus all the different withholdings. Okay, so I'm going to take 1 minus in percent. We're going to do it in decimal form instead of percent form so we can subtract easier. So minus 0.25 for the federal supplemental 25% rate. Minus 0.062 for Social Security tax. Minus 0.0145 for Medicare tax. And minus 0.05 for the Utah state tax. Okay. So to figure out the gross amount, I'm going to take 1 minus all of my different deduction rates. And when I subtract those, I should get, that should be 1 minus 0.3765. Okay, that's what all of those add up to. So I would truly take $250 minus, or divided by 1 minus 0.36765, which is 0.6235. So at the end of my formula, I'm going to take $250 divided by 0.6235, 0.6235, and I should get $400.96. I round to 2 decimals. So that'll be my gross amount, $400.96. And then from there, we're truly just calculating withholdings like we always would. So for federal income tax withheld, we're going to take 25% of that. So that would be a minus 100.24. For Social Security, 6.2%. So it'd be a minus $24.86, $24.86. Medicare of 1.45, so minus $5.81. $5.81. And my state tax of, what was that, 5%? So that'll be a minus $20.05. And if we did the math, we took our gross minus all those withholdings, we should get a $250 bonus check. So that's the grossing up method. As long as you know the formula, it's not too bad. You're just trying to figure out what gross amount it would take to get to a net check. So unless they tell you differently for federal income tax, you just always use the 25% supplemental rate. Any questions on that one? Right. The next exercise is a little quicker too. It's really on the same lines as that one. We're dealing with bonuses and grossing up. So it says Mottola Company is giving each of its employees a holiday bonus of $100. The company wants each employee's check to be $100. The supplemental tax percent is used. No one has capped out on Social Security. So on A, it says, what will the gross amount of each bonus be if each employee pays a state income tax of 2.8%, in addition to the other payroll taxes? Well, I'm just changing a couple things here. Okay. So my gross, or my net pay I want is $100. And then I'm still going to take 1 minus 0.25 for federal supplemental rate, minus 0.062 for Social Security, minus 0.0145 for Medicare, and then now minus 0.028 for state. Okay, so state's my only difference there. And when I do that, tell me what I did there. So if I take 1 minus 0.25 minus 0.062 minus 0.0145 minus 0.028, I get 0.645 or 55. So 100 divided by 0.6455. And we should get $154.92. So 154.92. Okay, so that was what we just did. Well, it wants to know in B, what would the net amount of each bonus check be if the company did not gross up the bonus. Well, there you're truly taking your $100 times all of those withholdings, okay? So you would take 100 minus, state or federal withholding, state withholding, Social Security, and Medicare. The good news is, since it's on $100, it's easy to calculate. So, $100 and then minus federal. Well, federal is 25%, so it'd be $25. Minus $6.2 for Social Security, minus $1.45 for Medicare, and minus $2.80 for our state withholding. So we would get $64.55. Okay. Which in this case, since it was $100, it's equal to our what we got here. That only happens when it's $100, but hey, we'll take it, right? So it should be $64.55. Okay. So if the company chose not to gross up that bonus, the employee would only be receiving $64.55 as a bonus. Okay. That's just kind of a comparison for us. Obviously, that's costing the employer more money, but at least the employee is getting more. Any questions so far on any of that? Okay. So this last one is really long. I know it doesn't look super long, but it takes a little time since you're calculating all the withholdings. So I thought we'd do, at least one or two together so you get a good idea of, just getting into the flow of what we're doing. So you will see ones like this on the exam or on the homework. So it gives us the name of the employees of Hogan Thrift Shop are listed on the following payroll register. They are paid weekly. They give us marital status and number of allowances along with their weekly salary, which has remained the same all year. It wants us to complete the payroll register for the payroll period ending December 22nd, which is the 51st weekly payday. State income tax is 2%. City income tax is 1.5%. And the wage bracket method is used for federal income taxes when we can use it. I think they should put that in there. Enter all amounts as positive numbers. Round your calculations and final answers to the nearest cent. This will be a big one I give you. Make sure you're rounding all of your calculations, okay? If you do not round intermediate calculations, you will get off somewhere, or you may get off along the way. So that's where it gets just a little tricky. Most of the time on this one, it's not too bad though. Let's see, so honestly, my advice, if you're comfortable with Excel, I would put this in an Excel table, and you can set up formulas to make it go quicker. Again, that's whether you're comfortable with it or not, because you are doing a lot of calculations, and if you set it up in an Excel where you can just copy down, and it's taking 6.2% of all of your total earnings, it'll make things go a lot quicker. Plus, if you make an error, it's easier to go back and find what you did, whereas if you use just like a calculator on the computer, it doesn't track your inputs. So with payroll accounting sometimes, again, if you're comfortable doing that, otherwise I recommend using at least some scrap paper and kind of writing down what you're doing so that way you can keep track of it. But again, if you're comfortable with Excel, you can get all these answers really quickly. Good old functions and formulas. But anyway, because you're going to be doing, 6.2% of gross pay like over and over. So on the first one, we have Matthew John. He's actually our trickiest employee. He's married with 3 allowances, but his total weekly earnings are $2,350. They want us to calculate FICA taxes, both OASDI and high. They also want us to calculate, if I scroll out to the right, the FIT, which is the federal income tax, CIT, state, city, or CIT, also CIT. That doesn't really work when you say it out loud, does it? So state and city income tax, and then the net pay, okay? So again, it's a lot of calculating. Well, for John Matthew, let's start with his FICA taxes. Well, I look at his total earnings. That's his weekly amount. I need to look at what we've paid him to date to make sure he hasn't. This is a review from Chapter 3. Has he met the limit for Social Security? So let's look at that first. They told us we are on our 51st weekly pay. Okay. Well, so to date, we've paid him 50 times. So $2,350 times 50 paychecks. His gross pay to date is $117,500. Okay. So before this paycheck, before this 51st paycheck, he has earned $117,500. Okay. Well, we know from Chapter 3 that he only pays Social Security tax on the first $118,500, right? That's our limit. So he only has to pay Social Security tax. I take the limit of $118,500 minus his gross pay to date of $117,500. His OASDI taxable wages left are only $1,000. So this is OASDI taxable income. He only owes Social Security tax on that additional $1,000. We're paying him $2,350, but he's only subject to 6.2% of 1,000. Okay. So that was a last chapter review. He is the only one that is close to that limit. Okay. So when I calculate his Social Security, well, $1,000 times 6.2%, his OASDI withholding is $62. Okay. And then the Medicare, he's not close to where paying extra Medicare. So it's just 1.45%. So you should get $34.08. The only thing, if you do this in Excel, make sure you use a round function to round to 2 decimals. Otherwise, it'll keep, even though you may put it on displaying only 2 decimals, but it will keep, extra decimals in Excel. So when you go to calculate net pay, your net pay may be off. So I don't know if any of you are going to use Excel, but if you do, make sure you use a round. Do you know how to? Yeah. You're like, I'm like, if you're not comfortable using Excel, you probably know how to do that. So I did that in my function, and I just rounded each answer to 2 decimals. And again, even if you're using like a scientific or business calculator, make sure you write down, don't keep the answer stored in your calculator and use that stored answer, because it will get you off on the net pay. So make sure you round everything to 2 decimals on the input side, and then when you're calculating net pay. Okay, that's my soapbox, right? Over here a little bit. Okay, so federal income tax withholding. Well, it says to use the wage bracket method, but if you've looked, can we use the wage bracket method with this employee? He makes $2,350 weekly, and he is married with 3 allowances. If I look at my table, any earner that makes more than $1,490 and over, it doesn't cover it on the wage bracket method. So Matthew John, the man with 2 first names, is just really kind of tricky, right? So we cannot use our wage bracket method on him. But again, he's the only one. Everyone else you should be fine with. But we're going to have to use our percentage method. Okay? So he's the only tricky one. So let's see, for John, or Matthew John. Well, first we'll take, his weekly wages, and we're going to subtract out his allowances. Well, again, I would look at my table of allowances, and they're all weekly pay, so there'd be $77.90 per allowance. And he has three allowances. that is what, $233.70. So I'm going to subtract that from his weekly pay of $2,350. So $2,350 minus $233.70 is $2,116.30. $2,116.30. So that's how much I want to look up in my percentage table. Wrong one. There's my table. Okay, so he is a weekly earner, and he falls in Table 1B under married. We have $2,116.30. So he actually falls in line 3 here. He makes more than $1,613, but not over $3,086. So again, I know he is going to pay $199.50 plus 25% of anything over $1,613. So I'm going to take $2,116.30 minus the $1,613, okay, to figure out how much to take 25% of. And that is $503.30. Okay. 25% of that is $125.83. That I am going to add to the $199.50. So we should get $325.33. $325.33. So again, he's the long one, the problem one. Oh, that percentage method, right? That's a fun formula to type into Excel. If you've ever done that one, it's a long one with lots of parentheses. Oh, but hey, it works. So then the rest is pretty easy after that. That one's a hard one. So then we get to state income tax. It's 2% of their total earnings. We don't have to worry about anything coming out. So state income tax withholding for him is $47. They do city and they also do city, sorry. The city income tax rate is 1.5%. So 1.5% of his total gross pay is $35.25. $35.25. And then the net pay, you are going to take his gross of $23.50 minus those 5 deductions. And you should get $1,846.34. So that one, he's a problem child because he's at a limit and we have to use the percent method. The rest of the employees, we'll do one more together, but honestly, they're all very straightforward. You're truly, for like Jennifer Smith, you can use the wage bracket method. I guess we need to calculate the FICA taxes first. So for Jennifer Smith, she's single with 1 allowance. Total earnings are $275 for the week. So 6.2% of that is $17.05. $17.05. And Medicare is $3.99, $3.99. And then once again, if we go to the wage bracket method tables, we can use those with her. She is single with one withholding allowance. So I would just look on the table until I find between 270 and 280. So I'm on single person's weekly pay, and I go down to 270 to 280, and with one withholding allowance, her federal income tax withholding is $15. So I find that, and I pop it in. Again, the rest of the withholdings are just taking percentages. So 2% for state would be $5. And for city, it'd be 1.5% for $3.75. And then we take her gross, the 275 minus those 5 deductions, and her paycheck would be $229.33. So we would do that for the remaining employees. The only other thing, you'll want to total them all up, so you'll have to add them all up. When you come down to the bottom, though, and it's asking for OASDI taxes and high taxes, I'll give you a hint when you see this on the homework. Your high taxable earnings are going to just be your total gross earnings here, the $5,571.25. And you'll have already calculated your high taxes withholding, the total up above, although they go off of those taxable earnings. When you do OASDI taxable earnings, remember only $1,000 of John's gross pay was subject to OASDI. So take that into consideration when you're looking at total taxable earnings for OASDI. So in other words, you're going to add up 275 plus 250 plus 320, you know, all of those, but only $1,000 for Matthew John, okay? I keep wanting to call him John Matthew. Matthew John sounds weird. Okay, so make sure under OASDI taxable earnings, you're just taking 1,000 of Matthew John plus everyone else's gross pay, okay? And just to give you the amount, it's $4,221.25. So that's just, they kind of tricked you a little bit with that one, even though that's a review of Chapter 3 stuff. Again, I would look over in Chapter 4 when it deals with pre-tax deductions and things like that. We didn't really deal with any in the practice. I think your homework has one where it deals with if you have like a contribution to a 401k. Remember, you know, so keep in mind and read over that, like some of those contributions are pre-tax. So you would take them out of their gross pay before you took taxes out, okay? Which is pretty common. I think that's it. Like I said, this one's just kind of a little more time consuming in Chapter 4 with the calculations that you're doing. It's not difficult, it's just easy to make mistakes. So when I'm doing percent method, I like to keep track of it, you know, write it down or put it in Excel. That way, if you make a mistake, you don't, you know, you can kind of see where you went wrong, because the only problem is with payroll stuff, you're typing in your final number and you don't know if you were wrong, like way up here or way down here. So if you at least jot it down and kind of, you know, look over what you did, it makes it easier to find if you've made a mistake. So that's my hint on working with those. If you are working on one and get stuck, you know, feel free to email me and I'll look at it and see where you're going wrong. Any questions on Chapter 4? Alrighty, well, that's what I have.